Oh my goodness, you guys. Alright, first of all, let me start out by saying I don't know anything about anything. I'm doing my best here. Holy shit, my friends. I'm back. It's another painting session. I have a lot to talk to you about. But usual to our painting sessions, I'm going to jump right into them, into the painting, and then we'll discuss things as they come up. It's been a big week artistically for me, and in terms of personal realizations as well. And I am super stoked to talk to you guys about this stuff. But let's jump into it. Got a nice warm sencha. Holy shit, what the hell? I just found this face down in my bucket of gesso. There's a phrase I'm trying to come up with right now. What in the ADHD? Ha 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 ha, joke. So what I'm adjusting right now, I don't like the way that the face bows out, because while you can see that in some people's head shapes, I feel like it makes this figure look a little bit not real. I don't know how else to describe that. This one specifically, I've been doing a lot of work on texture. Like if I'll show some close-ups of the actual work and try to show the texture as good as I can. But like this is, I say a lot, like you gotta see it in person, but this really is one of those pieces where like seeing it in person, I think changes things a lot. Like the texture on the gesso is this like creamy but yet still bumpy and violent texture that's like kind of swirling inside of itself. And then you have like the texture of the actual figure, which what I've done is basically used like 8 times the amount of paint that I would use for any given stroke, but then like try to maintain the same level of like spontaneity and hit it like I usually would, just with a lot more paint and a lot more of a deliberate texture. Trump hands. It's simple. It helps everybody, hurts nobody. That's a Biden quote. Never mind. All right. We're very early this morning. I've only been awake for an hour and a half, but I've been just very deep in painting and very deep in like realizations about my art and about the process and everything like that. And I've been building up a lot to discuss. Well, fuck that. We're getting too meta. Oh, guys, let me just say one more thing before I go back to painting for like quite a bit. I'm really proud of this. I've gone, I think, 2 weeks now without severe FND episodes. Knock on wood that, knock on wood, obviously. But, dude, I'm so stoked. I'm also feeling a lot better. Currently, let's discuss this just for a moment. My ideas are to build out the face in something of maybe a slight square pattern to emphasize or overemphasize an eye. I need to balance out the values a little bit more, or the color. I try to use these art terms, but I took 2 art classes in my life, okay? I took Intro to Art in 9th grade. I got a D- because I would make clay bombs. I am coming to you guys right after one of the most unfortunate events that has happened during the recording of one of these videos, which is that I just recorded a full hour of really good stuff that felt really good, only to have it didn't write to the card because the card was full. There's a little bit of a clunky way of saying that. So right next to me, you're going to see a painting that is not finished, which is unusual for our for these videos. Usually I would be working on this and talking to you about it while I work on it, but that's what I just did for the past hour, and did not record it. So I'm coming to you with the results of what I did while it dries. And we can talk about that and cover some of the things that I was going to cover during the painting video. But first, one sec. I needed a quick reset break. All right, so what you're going to see here is a figure that I have sort of brought into being with a new type of technique that I've been working on this week, which is that I realized, listen, I'm not that great of a sketcher. I'm not out here shading apples. I'm not out here rendering figures or faces or recognizable. I mean, I'm making faces, but recognizable people. You know what I'm saying? Like celebrities or whatever. That's not my wheelhouse. And so, when I try to find a form in a painting, as you've seen in many other videos that I've done, you'll notice I do an outline, and I kind of give myself a general outline of where I'm at, and the sketch is always terrible. And I think that the technique of doing the sketch beforehand could work if if you have like legitimate draftsman skills. That's just not something that I have. So the more high resolution image that I can provide is when I see the form, hold that image in your head mentally the entire time while you're painting it, and never fully outline it. Bring it out with, like, interactions of light and dark and different colors and whatever technical terms you want to use. I took two art classes my entire life. One, I got in trouble for basically what you'd do is you'd make a square out of clay, still moldable clay, and you put slip clay in the middle of that. You fold the four corners up like a wonton, and you make sure that there's air pockets open for when you throw it, and you throw it tip first at the wall. And what that does, what those little air holes do in the corner, is they provide a place for the air to escape as the clay compresses. And what that does is it creates an incredible suction with the slip clay. And that shit can be nearly impossible to get off of walls. Not nearly impossible, but very difficult, and it's very annoying. I did a lot of that, and I got a D-, and then the other one was a photography class. I apologize if I don't know the right terms. But back to the piece. So you'll notice that it's a very like fractalized, sort of fragmented figure. We run the risk of muddiness at this point, just because of all of the layers of color. But when you actually look at the piece, there's no mud. There's none of that like signature, grayish, purplish color that comes from mud. So we haven't reached muddiness yet, but from a distance it can look like that. And so there's going to need to be some refinements made. This is going to need to be worked into the face a little bit, and we're going to need to work a little bit on just some of the values. I think I've gotten a good amount of the light and dark interactions in place, but now I need to make it a little bit more nuanced. Like, for example, like right here, I don't want just like a big streak of a single color. Let's make that a little bit more interesting. You know what I'm saying? Try to find relationships within that. But then, you'll notice I've done a bunch of ink work. I just really like ink. I think that it's so black and perfect that it just creates somewhat of a void feeling if you use it right. Sometimes it can just be overpowering. It can just look like stuff on top of stuff, and I've definitely been guilty of that in the past. But if done correctly, it can work as a good void. Man, it's pretty chilly out here. It's We're coming up on Halloween in Colorado at like 9,000 feet. Oh shit, I just realized for the group that I did over the summer, there's supposed to be a meetup today, but part of it got canceled, and then we were talking about potentially doing a meetup. I'd like to do that, I think, but that would be today. And with having to have recorded an entire hour before this and then recording this, and then I'll be doing a bunch of editing later on today, I don't know that I have the spoons for that. I'll have to evaluate that at a different time. Right now we're discussing paintings and things like that. Anyways, I want to talk to you guys about a realization that I had in terms of art this week, because it's been a very big week for me in terms of growth, both artistically and then also personally. Let me pull this cap down a little bit so I can get the sun out of my eyes. Okay, so basically I had that realization about not doing the sketch beforehand and instead bringing out the figure while keeping the mental image and trying to bring it out of the void. You know what I'm saying? Like pull it out rather than put it onto a thing. So that was a major realization I had. But I also had another realization, which is that I mean, for me, texture has always been a big part of my art, because I do tend to sort of, it's part of the expressiveness of the paint. But that texture has often been a sort of byproduct of what I was doing, and less of something that I was intentionally sculpting. And in this piece, I'm working on sculpting that. You'll see if I'm sure that I have included by now a video of how we got to this point in the piece, at least as much as I can show you. And you'll see that we had basically a finished painting before this, and I didn't like it, so I completely painted it. I ruined it, painted over it, went further, created something new out of it. So I've been dealing with a lot of, I guess, what you'd call failure in art recently, but that's only because, like, this leads into the third major realization, which is that, like, if you're not consistently failing, if you're not actively chasing something that you can't quite do, then you're stagnating. Like, the fact that I am operating at the limits of my painting capacity right now means that I'm actively growing, and honestly, that's been a pretty consistent thread throughout since I started painting. I think if you're actively trying hard to get better, you'll probably feel that a lot. But just only recently, I've gotten to the point where, like, it's not just accepting it, but it's like genuinely being happy that I am experiencing this difficulty, because if I wasn't, I wouldn't be in a position where I'm getting a lot better a lot quicker. And like, I think all of this comes from, so if you go back a lot of videos, I don't know how many videos, but if you go back a lot of videos, you'll see there's a piece that I did where it's sort of like a blue and light blue figure on like a dark purplish blackish background. And in the videos I talk about, oh, this guy just discovered just detail or whatever. For me, that was actually really, really huge. It was like introduced this fractalization process that had a lot to teach me. And it grew my art massively. Like, the amount of, the quality of paintings that has come since then is drastically better than before. Not that there haven't been some misses. Like, I think my very first video doing the outdoors one with the huge painting that was kind of vertical next to me, I look at that as kind of a big miss. But what I'm saying is, when I had that realization and I developed like the drawing practice while I was dealing with the intense episodes, and I was able, like, I sort of started integrating those things together. You can only go so far with that. And so eventually you need to just experiment and genuinely just find something new. Not just take principles that you've learned before, remix them in new ways, but genuinely, at some point, it's like the baby bird leaping out of the nest. You have to sort of try to find your own way a little bit, you know? And if you ask me, I would have probably told you that I've been doing that this whole time
back then. But I can tell you that now is a new step in finding that. And yes, it does look like failure sometimes. And I'm not going to lie in that I'm not saying that I know exactly what I'm doing at all times. I am fully just experimenting here and trying to learn and grow with you guys. Let me just check. And I'm still recording. Was it? I don't really know. Oh, I was talking about failure as growth. And that is very true. And therefore, just I think last night when I was laying down, it's sort of when it clicked that I feel genuinely grateful for the amount of difficulty that I've been experiencing recently, because I'm working on a real problem. And on the other side of this is a lesson that will drastically improve my ability to paint. I'm just not there yet. I just have to get there. One thing that you'll notice in my paintings a lot is I tend to have this blue streak on the right side of my on the faces that I do, or blue, purple streaks on the right side of the faces. I'm not gonna lie, part of it is like just kind of subconscious. Like it comes up as a decision pretty much every time I'm painting, and I really like it. But I think that ultimately, when it comes down to it, I mean, we've been talking about some pretty heavy stuff over the past couple of weeks, and with a lot of that stuff comes the feeling that my own face is a reminder of that stuff, and I can't get away from it. And so I wear like these hats and these glasses and headphones and mustache, and I do as much as I possibly can to I wear weird clothes, do as much as I possibly can to sort of not look at that. And I think for me, like painting these faces over and over again and abstracting them in various ways and building them through color, but then also specifically these purple streaks is a way of sort of not having to face that, if that makes sense. I guess that's maybe the best way I can put it, you know. It's not like, again, it's not something that was consciously decided. It's just a decision that comes up every time I'm painting. Purple, no purple, what colors, what's next? Speaking of what's next, let's discuss what's next for this piece. So this is nowhere, I mean, maybe it's somewhat near done, but it's not done. This yellow has to be worked into the painting better. It's like, to me, it feels very flat. Some of this brown has to be worked in better because that feels very flat. I have to make a final decision on the background on if I do want to bring new stuff in or not, which, speaking of which, another realization that I have had and I am going to be working on implementing in the coming weeks is like the professionalization of this art practice, which is that I have a lot of colors that I would love to use in my paintings, and I don't use them because the way that I paint, it's very flow based. You sit down and you sort of choose based on balance and feel, and it's hard to explain the entire mental process on it, but it's not conducive to mixing colors while I'm doing it. And so what I'm going to be doing is pre-mixing a bunch of colors and putting them in small like baby food jars and different things like that, and then having them ready to go for my painting so I can expand my color palette. Because you'll notice, I mean, maybe you haven't noticed, but I've noticed that I tend to work in, I use the same colors all the time. I have like 10 colors or something that I just buy out and repeat from Blick. And while that's great, like that's more than enough colors, the palette does eventually feel somewhat repetitive when you're not mixing them or adjusting them in different ways. And so you'll see I try to do that a lot on the canvas itself, is I'll put down a color and then I'll use another color to interact with that color and change the color a little bit. But then it still leaves these big gaudy, you know, just brown, just yellow, that kind of stuff. So in the coming weeks, my focus is going to be on mixing new colors for my paints and storing them in ways that are accessible when I need them, and then making sure I have canvas before I need it. Because I can, like, things were so intense for like 6 weeks with the FND, and I wasn't really able to do that much, and I was very much forced to like relax and take it easy. And I've done that, and I'm still going to be working to not push myself too hard and still try to relax and still try to take it easier than I would. But a lot of that need to paint and make art is coming back like really, really hard. And I want to make sure that I am very much ready for all of this. I want to be able to be completely in the flow and just make the work that I want to make when I want to make it, and have the things already done beforehand. But that requires discipline. And I think that really is the biggest part of discipline behind art, which is like just keeping your brushes clean, keeping canvases ready, pre-mixing colors if you need to, like taking care of your materials, doing all of these background tasks that nobody really likes to do, but set you up for success when you're actually doing the thing. So I think art should genuinely feel like play. It should feel like, you should be pushing yourself, sure, if you're trying to push yourself, but like, it shouldn't be something that's like, oh, I have to do this. Like, like, I think when people think discipline a lot, it's like, you think about like getting up at 5 a.m. and going for a run type deal. And art discipline is not that. But it's a different thing. But it still exists and it's still necessary. Which, nothing wrong with getting up at 5 a.m. going for a run. We're just gonna move forward. Dude, it's a Saturday morning. It's beautiful. It's 9:52 a.m. I've been recording since 7:30. That's when I started recording the first one. Things were very much fighting me today, but it's okay. You just sort of roll with it, and there's nothing you can do about it. I have to record today, and I want to record today, so I'm not going to let some inconvenience completely stop that. And honestly, I think that doing that helped me a lot, because I got all of the things out that I wanted to get out beforehand, and I sort of was left with like a mental map of what I wanted to talk about, and in that was a lot more bullshit. Not like bullshit, but like a lot more unnecessary like comments and things like that would have probably gotten cut out of the video. A lot of tangents of stupid, like unrelated side things. Whereas I'm able to be a little bit more focused and a little bit more present in this one. And I've been wanting to record outside for a while now, for a few videos, but I just haven't, because they've either been too heavy, or I just needed to just do it right in the moment. But it's good to be back outside. I feel so much less overwhelmed when I record outside. So much better. This week's album of the week is This Kiss by Faith Hill, the song. This Kiss, which is not an album, which is a song. I grew up on that song, dude. That was like, when I think about when I was a little kid, it's all like 90s mom country. God, it's peaceful out here. I should spend more time out here, just not even recording, just hanging out. I do sometimes. I don't know, on Wednesday, it's just a weird moment. Like on Wednesday, I find myself laying down in the forest looking up at the trees, just with like flat on my back. I'm like, dude, it is Wednesday at 2 p.m. What am I doing? Laying on my back looking up at trees. What in the unemployment? Nah, you gotta take a break sometimes. You gotta go for a walk. So what I do is I spend a lot of time painting, and then I try to get my brain off of it. And a lot of times I'll just go for walks. Sometimes if I'm walking, if I feel the urge to lay down, I just do that. But then if I lay down and I stare up at the sky too much, I start feeling like an ant on a bowling ball. I get spooked. The world is so big. Space is so big. I hate that. I hate that topic. That's like my least favorite thing to think about. It's just the scale of things. Anyways, we're just getting way too into the weeds here. I'm going to call it for the week. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider doing so. It helps the channel a lot. If you want to get notifications, just like that, there's a bell icon, and you do all. That way I'll give you all notifications. I promise to never give you shorts notifications. A, because I don't upload shorts, and B, when I used to, I didn't put out the notifications. And I think that's it. I hope you guys have a great week, and I really hope to see you in the next one.